Thank you and good afternoon. I'd like to start today by thanking the Celebrate Clinton Association for inviting me to speak and all of you for coming out today. It is a true honor to be asked to speak at an event like this that celebrates Clinton's history and founding. The association asked me to share why I chose to teach in the community that I grew up in and why teachers should teach our younger generations about their community's history. As a history teacher, I could spend the next several days giving you hundreds of reasons. However, I will save that for my current 8th grade students or my past ones as well. Becoming a teacher was something that I knew I always wanted to do. My mom and dad will vouch when they tell you that they saw the signs early. I vividly remember beginning and ending each school day, and probably some weekends, helping my mom in her classroom with whatever tasks needed to be done. This usually included changing behavior charts, turning on the computers, running errands. At home, I was the guinea pig to test a learning game that she made to help students with their math facts or an activity to help them understand science. I think she probably still has the first plaster of Paris fossil that we made together before making with her class. Although I didn't realize it at the time, I'm sure experiencing the excitement that she had, planning ways to help students learn during my formative years, developed my love of teaching. As I continued my educational career through junior high and high school, this is really where I developed my love of history. A teacher that provided an early impact on my love of history was Miss April Martin. The year I had her, we happened to take a family trip to New Orleans, and while browsing through an antique shop, I found a treasure trove, Civil War bullets. I couldn't wait to take them back to school and share with her. As I continued my education, I tuned into ways that teachers made history fun. Mr. Thompson had his What If bell, and also his test theme songs. This is also where I finally learned exactly what I wanted to do, teach history. After I graduated from Western Illinois in 2013, the job market for a social studies teacher was very competitive. Although I had no idea where I would end up, I knew what kind of community that I wanted to live in. Somewhere like Clinton is where I had always envisioned wanting to teach. A smaller town where you knew the people you were around, could stay high at the grocery store, and somewhere that was good to raise a family. As an opportunity opened up a few weeks before school started, I knew that this was a perfect position to apply for, and accepting was the easiest decision I ever made. Being able to teach in the same room that I had social studies in with Mr. Page, and making a difference in students' lives is the most fulfilling feeling. It was also during this time that I was invited to join the board of directors at the DeWitt County Museum. This was a true honor, as the museum was something dear to my heart, as my grandpa Robert had served on the board for many years. It was a family tradition to tour the homestead during the candlelight tours at Christmas, and every September I was eager for the Apple and Pork Festival. I was found helping my grandparents bag up ground wheat and corn by the bridge, or helping my dad make rope in the front lawn. I saw the joy on my grandpa's face as he worked on the hit-and-miss engines that ran the grinding mill, or explained to a visitor how they were used on the farm. I also saw the fascination on kids' faces as they watched baling twine twist into rope, reminiscent of the days gone by. Teaching 8th grade and serving on the museum board seemed like a natural fit together. As I talked with students each year, though, I was surprised with how many said they did not know that we had a museum in Clinton, or, oh, that's where Apple and Pork's at, without ever having gone inside. I wanted to find ways to help bridge that gap and get students involved in the community or the museum, or at least make them aware of the opportunities that it provides for our community. As a teacher, you know the importance of making your subject matter engaging to students. We want to convey the love that we have for our subject matter and be able to share it with students to make learning fun. No matter how long you teach, there is always something you can improve on to help students learn, so reflecting on lessons is important to instruction. Gone are the days that students need to memorize all of the amendments to the Constitution, although I'm sure all of you can still name all 27, right? Yes. Instead, making information relatable and having students connect to the material is key for their success in retaining the information that we teach them. While some students might not remember what year Prohibition began, many do come up later and can tell me why Born in the USA is not a patriotic song. This way of thinking is found in many of the activities and lessons that 8th grade students learn. In many ways, this is why we started 2 of the major projects that we do each year. When you tell 8th grade students we are going to take a trip to a cemetery, you get some good weird looks. This is the way that we started the Good Cemeterian project. The 8th grade teachers were looking for ways to get students involved in their community, and also to learn how to be a good citizen. I started thinking about some potential options, which included something that the students could do and be proud of. If you teach students to take pride in their community, they are much more likely to be involved in it in the future. As I was browsing Facebook, I came across a project where students in Leroy had gone to a local cemetery to clean old graves using a specialized cleaner. I thought, wow, that's really cool, and kind of moved on. After several more weeks, I came across a video that showed a man who goes around and cleans veterans' graves in his free time. I went on and didn't think much about it, but it wasn't until I was walking around the cemetery one night that I noticed just how dirty the graves in the soldiers' plot were. The graves of those who fought and died in the Civil War or had gone on to live lives after had been forgotten and were in danger of being lost to time. If those men could talk, what stories would they have to tell that helped shape our community into what it is today? By merging these ideas together, I hope that we could create a really cool project that would allow both learning and community service together. Out of this came the Good Cemeterian Project. For this project, students are assigned a Civil War veteran, and they are tasked to research and create a project based upon their life. Students use several online resources to comb through archival records to find out information and then create a presentation based on their veteran's life. Students read obituaries and newspaper articles to get a glimpse into what life was like during much of Clinton's history. After their projects are done, students take a trip to the cemetery to actually clean their graves. Students use a combination of water and a cleaner specifically designed for cleaning graves to wash off decades worth of grime, making the markers look brand new. It is encouraging to see how many students have a connection with someone who lived over 100 or even 150 years ago, and their sense of caring for their well-being. The project allows students to make a positive impact in their community. Students relate to the people they spend weeks researching and get an idea of what it would be like to walk in their shoes during the time that they were alive. As they share their presentations, they can get a glimpse into what life in Clinton was like as a whole. Students have uncovered information such as a man named Peter Roebuck, who died while waiting on the mail to arrive at the depot. George Lemon, he fought in the Mexican-American War and became one of Dewitt County's earliest settlers. Or James Hall and Benjamin Brown, two best friends during the Civil War who died decades apart, but then just by chance were buried next to each other in the soldiers' plot. These types of stories make the past relatable to students today and help keep Clinton's history alive to our future generations. Students even share their work with their parents and go check on their veteran to see the difference that they've made. If you have not already done so, I would highly encourage you to go over to the soldiers' plot in the old part of the cemetery to see what the students have done. It is truly remarkable to see the difference that they have made in their community. Also, several years ago, we received a grant from ancestry.com that allowed us to use their websites and materials for students to learn in the classroom. As a result, students started creating a genealogy project based on their family. This project allowed students to comb through decades of records, both in the US and abroad, to research as many generations back as they can. Students can then use that research to create a binder including a family tree and biographies about their ancestors. Since students are researching their own families, it gives them a sense of ownership in the materials that they are learning. The students take an active role in their learning, where the teacher merely serves as a facilitator rather than instructor. As I said before, this type of learning allows students to make meaningful connections to the material, and the research gives them a memento of their learning. Students have to have conversations with their parents, grandparents, even great-grandparents, and other family members for information which helps preserve those memories and family history for years to come. Although we're still waiting on a descendant of Jesse Fell or James Allen, we have uncovered some interesting information, such as a great-great-great-great-grandfather who took in a woman as a young girl. That woman later named her son after the man who took her in. She named her son George Washington. Their descendants live in Clinton today, and it's kind of a neat story that students will take with them for the rest of their lives. These types of connections are what makes learning fun for the students and what they will carry with them for years to come. It is exciting to see the light bulb go off in each student's head as they learn something new. The stories that students learn help carry on Clinton's history to the future generations and preserve them for years to come. In closing, I'd like to go back to the beginning and touch on why I chose to teach in Clinton. It is because of the kids, their families, and the community. Being able to have the opportunity to make a difference in a student's life is why each teacher walks through the door each day. Additionally, being able to walk into the grocery store and go to Dairy Queen and seeing your former students smiling back is something that I greatly enjoy and something you do not get in every community. It is my hope that if students only take one thing away from their education, it is to make a positive impact on those around them. By having the next generations of Clintonians take an active role in their community's history, this allows them to become the next leaders. The lessons and skills learned in school will help them be productive members of society and ones that have a stake in the future of their community. Thank you.